For us, it's a daily thing.
It's every day, right?
This is Mammoth Daily
We're going to take you inside the locker room
with Mike Fulta.
We want this show to be about the fans, and we want this show to be driven by our Utah Mammoth community.
And Adrian Denny.
Fans can submit what they want to hear us talk about, what they want to hear Utah weigh in on. It's all going to be here.
Here's Mike and AD with you.
Utahns, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Right here on Mammoth Daily.
Welcome back to Mammoth Daily, everybody. Good to see you all once again. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving Day weekend and some fun with friends and family all around. Mike Fulta and Adrian Denny here with you on Mammoth Daily. We're your Hockey Night in Utah radio crew. AD, Utah on the road here throughout the end of November and into December. It's a game night. Utah at the SAP Center to take on the San Jose Sharks here this evening, looking to exercise some demons after a 3-2 overtime loss to the Sharks earlier in November. But it's been a difficult stretch for this group, coming off a 1-0 loss on Saturday night against St. Louis. Obviously, the team playing with heavy hearts following the loss of Clayton Keller's father and the injury to Logan Cooley as well. We don't have an official update on Cooley as we record this right now, but just a real heavy time for this Utah Mammoth group, and it's one of the biggest tests in the season right now, not just physically on the ice, but emotionally as well.
Yeah, I couldn't discount everything that the team was competing through over the weekend. Clayton Keller's father passing away, Logan Cooley taking that ugly hit late in the game on Saturday night. You had Barrett Hayton, who missed the game on Friday, ill. We had heard that a couple other players didn't skate on Friday morning, due to illness as well that competed in the game. So, probably some guys out there not quite 100%, but just everything you're going through. There's the human element, and for me, I can completely chalk up, why that team on Saturday night wouldn't have completely 100% been in sync, why we were talking about execution and a few details on Friday in Dallas. It was a tough weekend. It was a tough time, and you don't just say, thoughts and prayers on Friday and mourn on Friday and come back on Saturday and have everything be normal, right? It was something that the team was carrying with them and playing for Clayton Keller and trying to do anything they could to support him and his family. And it wasn't an easy situation to have a back-to-back with travel in and the emotion of being in St. Louis on Saturday. So lost a couple games by a goal. You lose a game by a goal, giving up a single goal. I don't think you can say you played poorly when you give up one goal in a game. Just didn't get one, weren't quite as connected as usual. But I think for me, Mike, looking back at that game, it's 100%. There was a lot going on. That was a lot on those guys' shoulders, and there were some guys not feeling well, and then Cooley gets hurt, and that's another thing you've got on your mind. So onward, the team goes to San Jose, taking on the Sharks this evening.
It'll be the third game of a 6-game road trip, the longest road trip of the year for Utah. And Adrian, Mammoth are currently in the middle of a 3-game regulation losing streak that's tied for their longest regulation losing streak of the year. But you think back to the other 3-game losing streak, there was the loss against Toronto, then Montreal, and then Ottawa. Those losses felt way different than these losses. And look, there's no moral victories in the NHL, and while our hockey community is incredible and we've had other teams reach out offering condolences on the ice, nobody's feeling bad for the Utah Mammoth right now. And the Mammoth have lost 3 straight games, but they've lost 3 straight games by 1 goal, and I thought they looked pretty good in the losses to Montreal and then Dallas. St. Louis, a different story, playing on the back-to-back and playing through heavy hearts, obviously. But don't you think it feels different this stretch than kind of the messy losses we saw against Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa?
Absolutely, Mike. And you're that close to having a 5-game winning streak right now, and we can tell a difference in the way the games have gone against the Rangers, against Vegas, against Montreal, Dallas, and St. Louis. And it just comes down to, a detail here, a detail there. Details are easy to correct. It was another play on Saturday in St. Louis that came out of the Utah offensive zone when they're having a shift offensively, attacking the St. Louis goal. Puck comes away, comes back, odd man rush, and St. Louis scores. The way that Utah responded after Dallas tied the game up at 2 and Montreal tied the game at 3, it's the momentum situations went in the wrong direction, but it's not a tactical thing. It's not something that, oh no, this is a major issue here. It's hitting a minor reset again in key moment situations, and the penalty kill, which had been the best in the NHL throughout November and 6th in the NHL, that dropped from 6 to 16 in 2 nights, is you're able to look at that and say, okay, we were a little loose there. We weren't as sharp as we had been, right? So, you look at close, but I think you're one snap away from having a 5-game winning streak, or number 2, getting things going back in a good direction in San Jose, in California, and moving forward against the Sharks, Ducks, Canucks, and Flames.
So the road trip continues, and let's look ahead now. We're done looking back. Let's talk about tonight in San Jose, where Utah lost 3-2. If we can go back to that first meeting of the year between the two teams, Sharks have a 2-0 lead heading into the third period, courtesy of the guy you're seeing if you're watching on YouTube, Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini eventually won it in overtime, but JJ Peterka had 2 goals in the third to help Utah basically steal a point in that game, Adrian. And there was a lot of moments in that game where Utah, I don't want to say dominated, but you're looking at the possession, you're looking at the time spent in the offensive zone, you're saying, okay, here we go. Mammoth are going to get one. And it just never came. And the Sharks counterattack up the ice. And boy, those young kids off the rush, Celebrini, Smith, Eklund, you throw in the veteran Toffoli. They are fun to watch in transition. And they took that lead, but the Mammoth basically stole a point because JJ Peterka broke free twice in the third.
Yeah, JJ Peterka took over the game. Vitek Vanacek in that game after San Jose scored a couple early on 2 of their first 3 shots, stopped 18 straight going into overtime. And as you saw on the graphic, it was San Jose in overtime getting that 4-on-3 power play goal for Macklin Celebrini to complete his second hat trick of the year and give the Sharks the extra point.
So looking at San Jose this year, Adrian, we kind of were getting a taste of this before the first time Utah saw the Sharks, but the Sharks have been learning to defend a little bit here, and they are now not just a run and gun group, but you look at their last few games and they're winning games 3-2, 3-1, instead of 6-5, 7-4, like we saw earlier in the year. You see Yaroslav Askarov on the graphic right there if you're watching on YouTube. He's been really good. Won 4 of his last 5 in net for the Sharks, and you and I are both really high on him as a young goaltender. Celebrini, though, is the story with this team. Second leading scorer in the National Hockey League behind only Nathan McKinnon, 37 points. The Sharks' top 3 scorers are all 23 and under. Celebrini, Will Smith, and then William Eklund. And again, they're not just fun to watch now, they're dangerous. And they have the same exact record as Utah, 12-11-3, same exact number of points as well, with both of these teams tonight battling for that second wild card spot in the Western Conference.
Yeah, San Jose coming off a 4-3 loss in Vegas on Saturday night. It was a game they were down big early, Mike. It was 4-1 when we went off the air on Hockey Night in Utah. They came back, scored a couple in the second period, 4-3, and had one of those games like Utah did in Dallas on Friday night, where, okay, you've seen 7 goals through 40 minutes of play. There's not going to be no goals scored in this third period. And same situation there in Vegas on Saturday night. Wednesday night, the Sharks were in Colorado, and 10th straight win for the Avs in that one. They fell by a count of 6-1, returned home on Friday and beat Vancouver, but they're steady, as you said, identical record to the Mammoth coming into action here tonight. Both teams in that hunt. Utah holding the tiebreaker, early on here on December 1st for regulation wins.
Edmonton also tied with the same number of points, 27. Utah with more regulation wins than the Oilers as well. So should be a fun one between San Jose and the Mammoth. I want to talk a little bit more Sharks later, Adrian, but we should have got to this off the top of the show. This is our last episode on our own /old YouTube page. So this is your final warning to hop over to the team YouTube page and watch us there. If you're listening on podcast, you're fine. Nothing changes for you. You're all set. Thank you for subscribing to the show. We know many of you have, but this is our last hurrah on the YouTube Mammoth YouTube page. Adrian, this has been a fun journey because we started this kind of rogue back in September, and we're just gonna kind of shoot first and ask questions later. But so many of our day-to-dayers have subscribed to the show, have come up to us during games that the big club was like, we need some of that. We need some reinforcements.
Yeah, over 600 folks organically finding us here on the Mammoth Daily YouTube page, and we'll still be here just on the Utah Mammoth YouTube page. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, watching on SEG Plus, just stay there. Nothing's changing for you. We'll be on our usual audio platforms for podcasts, along with SEG Plus every day. Just a YouTube transition just to migrate everybody all into one place for Mammoth Daily.
So we got our Monday morning power play coming up here in just a bit. We'll talk more Sharks Mammoth in just at the start of the third period after our Monday morning power play. Adrian, I did want to circle back to Logan Cooley. I know I said we were done looking back, but it's a big storyline, and we'll get to it more in the power play. But just wanted to say that he was seen walking around, like you could see him walking to the bus, walking in the hotel. There are some knee injuries that you can walk on for a limited period of time. So again, no official word on Logan Cooley. Just wanted to expound on that. Frank Saravalli reporting that Cooley avoided the worst of the worst, which that's good news. But again, we haven't heard anything from the team as we record right now. So a big piece for Utah that was injured last game, and we're still waiting to find out more about. But let's close the book on our first segment here, and let's get to our Monday morning power play next, right here on Mammoth Daily.
And now, time for the Monday morning power play.
Welcome into our Monday morning power play. Thank you for starting your week with us. We're going to snap it around here in the offensive zone. First, Adrian, I wanted to throw in a couple shout outs to our Monday morning power play. Had some great friends stop by last home game. And I'm going down my list here. Stephanie was in section 107. Thank you, Stephanie, for stopping by. We've seen Nate a whole bunch, and the mustache. We're going to hear from Nate coming up as well. Austin came up and said hi, Adrian. He was high-fiving us for the show. He was pretty fired up for the game. Sean from Montana, MT Utah man on Twitter, and then Lauren and Max from the Chicago land area. As one has to do from Chicago, Adrian, they made sure to say from the Chicago area, not from Chicago, because if you say you're from Chicago to a Midwesterner like me or like our producer, Will Trubshaw, we will test that to make sure you're not from Naperville or somewhere that's like an hour outside the city.
That's fair. That's fair. You watch WGN growing up, the Cubs games, the White Sox games, and the Bulls games, and you see the ads for your Chicago area, your Chicagoland Chevrolet dealers bringing us this halftime report. So I get it. Knew it as a 10-year-old, Mike, watching WGN.
You would make a great Midwesterner. You're a better Utah, but you would make a good Midwesterner, Adrian. But let's get into our. Oh, go ahead.
I think so. I associate the Midwest with, friendly, honest, trustworthy, just salt of the earth people. And so I appreciate you painting me with that brush.
Oh, you shouldn't have described me like that, Adrian. Why don't you start us up? Top of the key, Mikhail Sergachev, Sean Dursey at the point right after a clean faceoff win.
Top 5 stories entering the week. Mike, there's one of them. I'll get to it later because I want to start with a positive for the Mammoth. But when the Mammoth get goals from their stars, Mike, they are almost unbeatable. 6-1 when Nick Schmaltz scores. 6-1 when Clayton Keller scores. 5-2-1 when Logan Cooley scores. When JJ Peterka scores. 4-2-2. 6-1-2 when Dylan Guenther scores. Saying there, Mike, that, if we could just get another goal or two, it's been a little drier than it was when the Mammoth were winning 7 in a row in terms of the scoring, and getting big goals. Logan Cooley, obviously a big week before he took that knee-to-knee hit there in St. Louis with 5 goals and 7 points. But I felt like for the last week or so, Dylan Guenther's on the verge of breaking out and having an 8-goal in 10 game stretch. But that's the difference in a 1-goal game. You can look at a number of things, but getting goals from your scores is another one. So heading into the week, we'll see if we can get some goals from our top gunners, including Gunner.
Would love to see it. Moving down to the half wall here. My first storyline is a guy we talked about in our first segment, and that's Logan Cooley and his status. Now, he did miss 7 games last year with a lower body injury. I think if he misses around that number this year with this injury after the hit he took from Alexei Toropchenko, I think that would be a win for Utah if he could just be limited to 7 games out of the lineup. Again, we heard from Frank Saravalli on Twitter and Andy Strickland, who's a Blues reporter, that Cooley had avoided the worst of the worst, which is good. Adrian, I thought when he took that hit, when I went back and looked at it, I thought he maybe took the knee from Toropchenko a little above the kneecap, which hopefully it's a bruise, it's a contusion, and it wasn't directly on the joint, which would be much worse, and you'd be worried about an ACL or an MCL. Did you see that?
I did, Mike. Had watched it over several times, and you're hoping you're seeing what your brain is telling you, right? As you want to see, you want to see what you want to see. It was a tough night on Saturday night. I don't know about you. I slept fine. I always sleep fine, but you wake up sometimes and you just have these thoughts. And every time I woke up, I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, I'm worried about Logan Cooley. So was happy to wake up and throughout Sunday morning see some tweets, see some reputable folks reporting out there that it wasn't the worst thing that we were all really worrying about.
Yeah, and again, he was walking around after the game. That's good to see. Better than not walking around. But he was dealing with something as well throughout the game. That hit that he took was about 6 minutes-ish into the third period, and that was his first shift of that third period. And so there was already clearly something bothering him. Don't know what that was, but keep that in mind that he was already less than 100% when he took that hit, and it was his left leg. He was not putting any weight on his left leg. But he's Utah's leading scorer. 14 goals, 9 assists, 23 points as we stand right now entering tonight's game against San Jose. And he's at a premium position, the center position, which is important for every team, but especially for Utah. The Mammoth are a little thinner than some other contending playoff teams at that center position. You look Down the rest of the spine for Utah's forward group, Barrett Hayden, Jack McBain, and then Kevin Stenlund. Those are your three other regular centers. Kevin Rooney is a center that could be possibly called into action. He scored a goal in his Mammoth debut. He's been very good for the Tucson Roadrunners. Was a depth forward, a fourth line forward with Calgary last year. And then you could also throw Nick Schmaltz in at center. He played a little bit of that to start the year, and we saw it in preseason. Hadn't played center in, I think it was 4 years or something like that, but it is something he's done throughout his career. He can take faceoffs. We see that all the time. And Andrew Agazzino is a guy who's down in Tucson as well that we saw called up when the Mammoth were needing some center depth as well. So Cooley's status, obviously a huge storyline for this group moving forward, because as we know from him signing that big contract, he's a huge part of this team right now and in the future.
Yep. Just a huge relief to see those tweets coming in as we wait for the official team announcement. Mike, number 3, I was going to lead off with this. Wanted to lead off with something positive, but the positive thing here on number 3 is November is done, so we can move forward and start a fresh month on the power play. After 2 power play goals in the entire month of November, one came on the 5-on-3, 1 5-on-4 power play goal. It came courtesy of Barrett Hayton on Wednesday night against Montreal. But Mike, this is a power play that was 10th in the NHL last year, over 20%. They've added depth to that second power play unit, and you got to expect it to normalize it at some point, because everything's there from a power play that was good last year. Just had a really bumpy month of November that followed a 7-for-20 stretch to head into the end of that road trip in October on.
And luckily for the power play, going 0-for after a 5-minute major only counts as 0-for-1 on the power play sheet. But it has been, it's been tough sledding. It's been hard to watch, and I wonder how long it is until we see more change-ups on the power play just to get something going. Maybe Jack McBain at the net front on PP2, or Kyler Yamamoto getting some power play one time. Who knows? But it's been tough. You take the power play. I'm gonna be a little niche here, and I took a deep dive, Adrian. I got dirty. I tunneled deep below the surface of the Earth's crust, and I have found some nuggets that I'm eager to share. And as we continue to move it around on the power play, my second storyline that I'm going with is Utah's secondary skilled players. Now, anybody who plays a single game in the NHL is one of the most skilled hockey players in the world. Okay, so when I say skill players, I simply mean that their number one asset is their ability to create offense. And I'm going to focus on 2 of Utah's forwards, Michael Carcone and Kyler Yamamoto. They're not typically top 6 guys when Utah has a full lineup. They're typically a little bit lower in the lineup. But because of their skill set, they have the ability to play up in the lineup as well, like we've seen from both of them throughout this year. Yamamoto has been good with Cooley and with Gunther. But to go first to Carcone and digging into his analytics, we're gonna get a little numbery here. Michael Carcone has the highest Corsi percentage and the highest Fenwick percentage on the team. Those are basically 2 measures of who has the puck the most and who's shooting the puck the most. And Michael Carcone, when he's on the ice, has those 2 highest metrics of any Utah forward. He also has the highest shot percentage, meaning that the percentage of shots when Carcone is on the ice is highest in favor of Utah compared to other forwards, if that makes sense. So Carcone's shooting the puck a lot. He also has the highest expected goal percentage of any individual forward, meaning that when he's on the ice at 5-on-5, our friends at Sportlogic are expecting Utah to score more goals than the other team. He has 4 goals and 4 assists so far. To Kyler Yamamoto, Kyler does not have the same strong analytics, but when he's on the ice, Utah is +3 at 5-on-5. How about this, Adrian? I had to turn back the clock for some of these numbers. During Kyler Yamamoto's time in Edmonton, he played a little bit with Leon Draisaitl and with Connor McDavid, and Yamamoto had a 20-goal season while he was in Edmonton. When he was playing with Leon, so with a winger, but without Connor McDavid, the centerman, similar to what he could be doing playing with Gunther, a winger, but without Logan Cooley due to injury, a centerman. When Yamamoto was with Leon without Connor McDavid, which was over 1,300 minutes, they had a 56% goal share at 5-on-5. That's pretty darn good. Their analytics weren't great, but their actual goals were very good. So the point I'm trying to say there is Kyler has played with really good wings before where the center was not necessarily that elite level center, and he's been productive. During Kyler's time in Edmonton, only McDavid and Draisaitl had more takeaways than him. We see that a lot from Yamamoto. He's stealing pucks. He's lifting sticks, creating 50-50 battles. During Yamamoto's time in Edmonton, only McDavid, Zach Hyman, and Jesse Puljujarvi, kind of a weird one, had a higher individual expected goals, meaning our friends at Natural Stat Trick thought that they expected them based on their scoring chances, shots, and whatever. They expected those guys to have the most goals, but only 3 guys had more than him on those Edmonton teams. Again, Puljujarvi, kind of a weird name to throw in there. He had some good years in Edmonton, but has since been in the minors mostly. But all of that to say, I think especially with the Cooley injury, however long it is, and with Utah's offense sputtering, these secondary skill guys are going to be hugely important for the Mammoth to try and lurch this offense back into gear.
You've also got Jack McBain coming off of a career high in goals from last year, who just got his second of the season, his first in over 20 games on Friday. Lawson Krause has been pushing up a little bit offensively. So Utah's fourth line going into Saturday's game had a goal in 2 straight games, Mike. Stenlund, Tanev,
Carcone had been with him.
Carcone, yeah. So yeah, the more the better, and then you add your stars because they're not going to stay in that November pace in December, January, February, March, April. I think you're in a good spot. Mike, let's go to number 5, our NHL storyline. It was a just okay month of November for the Mammoth in terms of wins and losses. But Mike, as we look at the standings as of Sunday afternoon, the only thing that would have changed from Sunday afternoon to Monday morning is if Chicago would have won their game on Sunday afternoon against Anaheim, and they would have moved into the second wildcard spot with the tiebreaker. But Utah's in that wildcard spot, Mike. They've been through some adversity, the schedule, the road heavy balance to start the season, but right there they are, Mike, because guess what? Nobody else has been perfect either. San Jose's had some ups and downs. Edmonton got blown out at home against Dallas. They're still trying to find themselves. Winnipeg had lost 4 in a row. The Hawks were hot, but then they've lost a couple in a row going into Sunday. So nobody's run away with it, Mike. And you look at Utah, who their best stretch in November was a 2-game winning streak. Still in a good spot there in the wild card because nobody's run away with it, and everybody else has had their own sets of issues here as we head into December.
Yeah, funny how that works. Nobody's perfect in the NHL. Adrian, I don't think you can't say November was just okay. November was bad. November was not good, but it's going to be a December to remember. We can agree on that. Happy Honda days, everybody. Time to get to our third period here. Nice power play way to snap it around. Maybe that'll give the boys some juice on the ice. But let's get to our third period, where I believe we have a a special guest this time around.
We do. We invite folks to stop by and see us in section 6-7 before games, during intermissions, and participate in our Friday free-for-all topics, or even come by and interview us. And Nate wanted to interview one of us, and I was interviewed by Nate. So we'll hear that when we continue third period next, right here on our Monday morning power play edition of Mammoth Daily.
This is Mammoth Daily.
Welcome back to your Monday morning power play edition of Mammoth Daily. Utah Mammoth taking on the San Jose Sharks, looking for revenge on San Jose at the SAP Center. We'll see everybody on our flagship station, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You can also listen on the NHL app. It's very easy to listen on the app, or the KSL app as well. So tune in. Our pregame starts an hour before puck drop. That'll be all AD, and then we'll have game action for you as well. Another reminder, this is our last YouTube foray before we move to the team account on YouTube. But Adrian, I wanted to ask you about our opponent tonight, San Jose, because this team, they allow the most shots in the NHL, and they shoot the puck the fewest in the league, and they're not necessarily darlings of the analytics community in a lot of ways, and yet they have these elite young players, and we saw this in the last meeting. They counterattack, they score off the rush. They don't need much to score goals and exploit the opposition, but I had pegged San Jose a few weeks ago as one of the teams that will eventually start trending down after a hot start. Are you with me on that, or are you against me?
I'm with you, Mike. And San Jose was a team that had kind of a run in mid-November. They've lost 3 of 5, including that game they lost, giving up 6 goals to the Colorado Avalanche on Wednesday. Tough game in Vegas on Saturday. But I think that, if anybody's seen a process here, Mike, with a young team, it's us, right? And I think we can pull a lot of examples from last year's group, who I think might have been a little ahead of San Jose in the process here. But, and Tyson brought it up when we had him on the Odd Man Rush last week. You're a young team, things are going good, and you sometimes you forget how you got there, and you got to learn lessons again. So it doesn't usually snap like that, right? Going from second worst record to playoffs, right? You've still got steps to take. And we've seen the Sharks play better than expected. The Athletic gave them an A+ in their ratings through the first quarter of the season, through 20+ games. So they're playing good. They're good team hockey, good goaltending, and it's not just their skill, Mike. Those kids, Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund, play both ways. I love Celebrini. Yeah. He hits guys. He defends. Everything about him I love, and I've said it before, but I saw him lay down a hit the first game I ever saw him play in the NHL last year. I'm like, okay, that kid's different than the usual 18-year-old we see in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and I believe he just hit 100 career points as well the other night, and he's one of the fastest to do so in NHL history. So big things for the Sharks ahead with their franchise player Celebrini, who does wear an A, by the way, as a teenager, as one of the alternate captains. But let's get to the interview of you, Adrian. Our good friend Nate stopped by Section 7 and turn the tables on our own Adrian Denny. And let's get to that great interview with Nate and AD here on our third period of Mammoth Daily.
All right, so I got a 2-part question for you guys. The first is, I feel like it's very important to have Kyler Yamamoto on the ice at all times. I feel like he brings a presence to the ice that's similar to like a Alexander Kerfoot in a sense. It doesn't matter what line you put him on. I feel like he brings a lot to the team. And the question I have for you is, how important do you think he is to the team? And then on the other hand, when he's a healthy scratch, it's usually because they're wanting to put Liam O'Brien on the ice, somebody that's going to bring some toughness, somebody that's going to be an enforcer. How important is it to have somebody like a Tom Wilson or a Ryan Reeves, somebody that you don't have to have a scratch for somebody that can play every game, be there all times. And what is your opinions on that?
Yeah, anytime Kyler Yamamoto has come into the lineup, he's made an impact, especially coming in off of his healthy scratch nights. The game against Winnipeg, when he had the big assist to Carcone that gave Utah the lead right after they fell behind. He came in with Gunther and Cooley when they changed lines.
Just the last game.
Last Saturday, and was on the ice when they got the go-ahead goal. He's a +4 in those two games, the Rangers game and the Vegas game on Monday. So he's an impact player. He can play in every role. In regards to Liam O'Brien, he came into the lineup for the San Jose game, 4th game of the year, as part of Utah's 7-game winning streak. And when he's on the ice, you can argue both cases. Yamamoto versus O'Brien. They don't like taking Yamamoto out. O'Brien, though, is shown when you insert him in. I think you look at the depth that that these guys have. They both add important pieces, but you love having Yamamoto in there.
So my next question is, this next stretch of hockey, I think, is one of the most important stretches of hockey during the season. I have been hearing a lot of, it's around 75% or so teams at Thanksgiving in a playoff position stay in a playoff position. Well, I think the next stretch of hockey right after this is the most important because it includes another long road stretch. And then after that, I think there's a stretch between, the end of January and the beginning of March where Utah doesn't leave Utah. So how important do you think this next stretch of hockey is between now and, let's say, the end of January?
Bill Armstrong's been saying it since the schedule came out. If we can just get to Christmas and still have a chance, we like the position we're in.
Right.
And Bill didn't say it how I just said it right there. It's what he did. If Utah can, stay in the hunt, stay within reach of that playoff spot going into Christmas, they feel like they're in pretty good shape. Big 6-game road trip, longest road stretch for the season. It includes 2 back-to-backs.
It's huge.
It includes a couple second chances, San Jose and Anaheim coming up, right? And then you've got St. Louis, who we beat. They're going to play better. Dallas is always tough. And then the Canadian teams at home.
Yeah, they're always tough.
You know what you get.
But you got to get that revenge against Anaheim and San Jose, because right now those are two teams that I feel like are in the same kind of jockeying for position and want to make it through this home stretch. So I agree. This next stretch of 6 games is huge. So it'd be nice if we could eke out 4 points, 3 points maybe on the road. How many points do you think we need?
I said 6. I'm fine splitting. Totally fine splitting and coming home. With the back-to-backs, the competition in the NHL, you split on the road, you win at home. You've seen the success the Mammoth have had at home, right? So, Bear always says the other team's allowed to be good. And I think getting through this, it'll catch up to them at the end of the trip, too.
Right.
So take 6 points and cash out. Works for me.
I like it.
Hey, your tusk-up mustache. Love that.
I need more people to grow out some tusks. Instead of a playoff beard, we're growing tusks. You can grow a huge sideburn in the style of a tusk. You can part your huge beard or goatee in the style of a tusk, or you can grow out a mustache in the style of a tusk. That's what we're doing instead of playoff beards. The playoff push begins now.
Nate, we need to do this more often.
I'm always here.
Come by.
I'll come by anytime I can. Thank you.
Turn around. If somebody doesn't catch you from your tusk-up mustache, Narth Fader.
On YouTube and on Twitch. Follow me on Twitch and on X, Narth Fader.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
We had better watch out for our jobs, Adrian, because Nate is a fantastic interviewer with some thought-provoking questions. I was worried for you there, but that was fun to hear, and we invite anybody to come up and try and stump us, especially Adrian, because he is a wealth of trivia knowledge, of wisdom, but oh boy, if you could turn the tables on him, I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was great. Nate did an unbelievable job, and look forward to having him back here on the third period for another interview. But yeah, folks, stop by, say hi if you want to interview us. If you have a trivia question, anything, we've always got the equipment and the mics ready to cue it up.
Yeah, no doubt. Utah and San Jose tonight at the SAP Center. We're still on the road for a few more games here. It'll go San Jose, then Anaheim, then up to Vancouver and Calgary, and before we're finally back home in about a week. So the road trip rolls on. Be sure to tune in to Hockey Night in Utah. That's tonight at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. We'll see everybody then. Pregame starts at 7 Mountain with Adrian Denny. And we'll see everybody tomorrow as well, right back here on Mammoth Daily for our Tuesday mailbag episode. See everybody tomorrow.